So today, Sunday, I was going to talk about the Swiss franc per request by several commentators on their interest rates going to 0%. And it seemed to be kind of like, who cares given what's going on in the world? But actually, it does matter in a way. And we're going to talk about the haven currencies. As you know, I believe there are three haven currencies, or two for real, okay? One is the Swiss franc, and the other is gold. And in our previous videos, I'd stated that it could be that Bitcoin is turning into a haven currency because the last, whatever you want to call it, kind of crisis we had, Bitcoin went up for the first time. And I noticed this. Now, people know that my opinion on crypto is determinant of two things. The first thing is it's not used in international transactions. Everyone's right. All of you are right. You say everyone wants off the dollar. Everyone's trying to get off the dollar. You have the most powerful countries in the world, China, Russia, India. Everyone wants off the dollar. They have every opportunity. They trade with each other, not with us, but they never use crypto. In the end, what they use is barter, or they say, we'll send oil to China, they pay in renminbi, leave it in a bank in China, and then that country, like Iran, will say shipping to China can buy Chinese good with the renminbi that they leave there. Now, does Iran want that? No, Iran wants the currency, but they can't get it, all right? So, number one, why is crypto not used in any transactions internationally other than basically, bad people, drug dealers, and SAs, okay? It's just not used. The second thing is that it goes up when there's a crisis, right? Because we all know, we all talk about, run the safety with the dollar, but, how come crypto is not given the exact same, thing that it must do, like the dollar does? So now the question is we've just had a couple of mini crises, and the dollar didn't go up, and neither did anyone come in and buy our bonds, okay? So our bond prices went down, our yields went up, and our currency went down in the last little mini crises that we've had. So now we may be heading into a larger crisis, and we'll be able to determine if the dollar status where it is. Right now, we know that we're under pressure. We just don't know how much pressure at this time, okay? So here they say the Swiss central bank cut interest rates to 0%. They say this is the first time that the Alpine country, which is one of the few to experiment negative interest rates, 7 years negative because of the pressure on the Swiss franc, has gone to zero interest rates. Now, you can read this yourself, but basically everyone was expecting them to cut by 50 and go negative. They didn't, and they kept it, went down 25 to 0. And you'll see, as I'll run through these things, that 60% of people believe they're going to cut by next March. Now, their inflation rate now is minus 1/10 of 1%, and their 10-year bond is 0.1%. So that's where their yields are at. And here's all that. You can see what I just said. Here's the actual numbers. Now, for the Swiss, when you have these low interest rates, it reflects back into the property. Hey, let's get a mortgage. I'll pay 0.25%, whatever, right? So they're afraid of that. That's the number one thing. The second thing the Swiss are facing, think that the Swiss franc is going up, which the Americans want to happen. We have put them on their currency manipulator list. Now, think of what's happened. Their currency has gone up around 10.8%, 9%, and deflation is setting in, and they've lowered their interest rates to zero, and everyone's betting they're going to go negative, okay? So no country wants to go negative. You say, well, why not? What's the big deal? Well, think of all the people in the banks. Think of all the retirees, all the pension funds. What are your CD rates at? What is going on? All these people that usually get paid are not getting paid. That's why when you look at the dollar and gold, listen, I get it, and people know that I've been basically bullish on gold for the last 3 years. But the truth of the matter is, if you have $1 trillion in the dollar, you're getting about 4.4%. In gold, it costs you money. You have to pay for storage. You don't get any interest rate on it. So there's a big difference, and this is what this country is facing. So it's not gold, it's their currency. Top paragraph shows that they went to minus 75 basis points, and that lasted for 7 years, and they got out in 2022, okay? So as they say, this creates a potentially tricky situation for the Swiss bank. People no longer earn interest on their reserves. So this is another thing. On this channel, we have said many, many, many times that banks make their money from net interest. You look at any bank, any brokerage firm, Morgan Stanley, Bank of America, Merrill Lynch, everything is net interest. We're not going to go into that now. Trust me, though. Everything they make is net interest. Everything else they lose on. The net interest gives them a 20% profit. So how can you have net interest as a bank? So all the banks in Switzerland who keep their money in Switzerland are now going to have degraded net interest. Their earnings are going to plummet. This is not a good situation, especially as they say here, if you're UBS. This is probably the most difficult scenario for the banks. So one last thing here. When you go in and you intervene to control your currency, or do you lower the rates, okay? So what do we say? There's two things that a central bank can do, right? They can buy their currency, or they can manipulate it with interest rate. Now they've decided to go with the interest rates. They're not going to be buying or selling of their currency, because the pressure from the world coming in and buying the Swiss franc is much bigger than the Swiss as a country. They couldn't print enough Swiss francs. It would just be highly inflationary. So they decided not to go that way. What they decided to go on was, let's go negative on the interest rates, all right? So this then causes another issue. Because they say here in the first line of the second paragraph, the way the policy rate is implemented, it is not adapted for persistent foreign currency purchases. So in other words, if you're the Swiss, you print your Swiss franc and you buy the other currencies, which would send up their currencies, theoretically, and down goes the Swiss franc. Now you have those currencies. So they don't want to go down that road. But of course, they're not stupid. They say, listen, there's still opportunistic interventions remain possible, okay? But UBS economists expect the S&P to stay at zero rates for the next 12 months, although they acknowledge that downside risk to growth and inflation could trigger further action. Now the middle paragraph's here what I want you to look at. If a central bank buys foreign currency to weaken its own currency, it pays for this with its domestic currency, increasing the amount of money in circulation. What we just said. To prevent this from causing inflation or lowering interest rates, the bank then sells government bonds, usually 2-year bonds, okay, to absorb the same amount of money, keeping the overall money supply stable. So they print the money, they buy the foreign currencies, they issue a 2-year bond, they buy their own currency back, and they take it out of circulation. It's called sterilization. And here is the explanation from Perplexity, which I just said it, but you can read it at your own leisure. Now, what about our other things? Well, here's Ethereum. It's down big. Here's Bitcoin, down to 99,000. Basically, the crypto complex is down. During this is right now. This is Sunday. These are the numbers from Sunday. And you can see it decisively broke down. It was like 108, I think, at the top. Now it's down to 99,000. So what this means to me, I don't know what it means to you, is crypto still not ready for prime time, okay? For whatever reason, I don't know. It's not used in transaction, and it's not a safe haven. When you look at the Swiss franc, it doesn't affect the world, but the Swiss, they're going to be struggling for years with this. I don't know how they're going to get out of this, because this is happening to everybody. So the dollar is way oversold. in this crisis, I wouldn't be surprised to see the dollar rebound strongly here for a short period of time. What do you think? Like and follow.